Anjana Shalakya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Tadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamascha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamascha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinubandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Panchakalpatarubhischa Kripa Sindhu Bevacha Vidyutanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Kadam Kanana Swami Nityanamane Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Gurdasa Jadvaita Swami Nityanamane Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Nityanamane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Thank you everyone for joining. Please do turn your cameras on if you can. It'll be nice to see everyone, especially because I don't know, I think, anyone apart from one person on this call. So thank you, Suman Prabhu. Okay, so I believe the topic that we chose for today was Dhruva Maharaj's prayers from the 4th canto of Śrīmad Bhāgavatam. Apologies, I don't know the format you usually go, but the way I'd like to run this is I'll share a bit of context behind the prayers, and then maybe we'll go verse by verse, and I'll share a few reflections or thoughts on each verse as we go through. So Dhruva Maharaj's prayers. Canto 4 is a very interesting canto because there's so many different pastimes that depict different modes of nature and devotion in those modes. And Dhruva Maharaj's pastime is actually depicting devotion in the mode of passion, because passion is all about wanting something, wanting one's own position. It's all about thinking I, me, and mine, but not necessarily in a destructive way where we're going out and destroying somebody else, but in a very much almost, you could say, a greedy sort of way, a very passionate, a very me-oriented way. And so this pastime actually starts with a king called Uttanapad, who is the father of Dhruva, and the king Uttanapad actually has 2 wives. One wife is Suniti, whose son is Dhruva, and the other wife, i.e. the second queen, is Suruchi, whose son is Uttama. And one day, Uttama was placed by Suruchi on the lap of the king, Uttanapad. These boys are just about 5 years old or thereabouts. And naturally, when a child is placed on the lap of the father, there's a lot of exchange of affection, of a lot of love. And you don't, the child does not think that, oh, this is the king, this is, the king of the whole kingdom. He's just thinking, oh, this is my father. And as Dhruva sees this, he also develops this desire that he wants to sit on the lap of his father. And so he's going up, you can imagine a 5-year-old boy, whilst the father is sitting on a chair or on a throne, the 5-year-old is trying to climb on top of his father's lap. But Suruchi sees this, and Suruchi then starts to rebuke and chastise Dhruva, the young prince Dhruva. She says that, do you not know that you have no qualification to actually sit on the lap of the king? You are born from another womb. If you have the desire to sit on the lap of the king, you must know your place. You must know that you must be born from my womb, because I am the rightful queen. I am the recognized queen of the king. And Dhruva's hearing this, and inside his mind, the 5-year-old boy is thinking, what is this? Why is my mother, albeit a stepmother, stopping me from sitting on the lap of my father? And this goes on, and Suruchi eventually tells Dhruva that if you want to sit on the lap of the king, You need to be born from my womb. So go and worship Narayan. Go and perform austerities towards Narayan and beg Narayan that you may die and thus be reborn in my womb. And Dhruva this whole time is keeping his mouth shut. Inside him, anger is dwelling. He's thinking and feeling so much resentment towards his stepmother. But more so, he turns towards his father, Uttanapad, and is wondering, when will my father protect me? When will my father speak up and tell Suruchi that no, Dhruva is also my son, just as Uttama is? But King Uttanapad keeps his mouth shut. King Uttanapad keeps his mouth shut, which then agitates Dhruva even more. And thus, out of his anger, out of his humiliation, he storms out of the courtroom, out of the palace, and he goes to his mother, Suniti. And as he goes to his mother, Suniti, he's crying, he's shedding tears upon tears. A 5-year-old boy just got refused to sit on the lap of his father. And thus, when he comes to Suniti, he immediately climbs onto Suniti's lap, embraces her, and is crying nonstop. And as Suniti is trying to find out what exactly happened, then the maidservants explain to Suniti, they narrate the whole course of events that happened, of how Uttama was placed on the lap, how Dhruva desired to climb onto the lap of the father, how Suruchi rebuked him and stopped him from doing so, and how King Uttanapad said nothing. And in all of this, Suniti herself is starting to feel aggrieved. She's starting to feel like, what misfortune for my son. But recognizing her position as a mother, recognizing that her duty is to give good counsel. And because Suniti by nature had a very good pious heart, a very good devotional heart, the first thing she told Dhruva is actually counseling him by telling him, please don't have any ill thoughts or don't wish ill upon anyone, because that is not the right course of action. That is not the spiritual action for one to perform. So whatever happens, do not have any ill feelings towards your stepmother or your father or your brother. And then she actually explains that, you know what, my son? Your stepmother is right. You are born from a misfortunate womb. I, Suniti, I'm supposedly the wife of the king. I'm supposedly a queen. But your father, the king, Uttanapad, does not consider me a maidservant, let alone consider me a queen. And further, she explains that your stepmother is right, Dhruva. If you really want to sit on the lap of the king, you have to perform devotion. You have to perform austerities and worship to Lord Narayan, because only Lord Narayan can actually free us from all this misery that one is going through in life. And hearing all of this, the 5-year-old boy Dhruva, whose age is that for playing, whose age is that for spending time with toys and friends and not caring about what's happening in the world, he leaves his family, he leaves his home, he leaves his mother, he leaves his toys behind and heads off towards the forest. And as he goes towards the forest, we hear how Narada Muni comes onto the scene. Right? All of this is depicted in the previous chapters of the Bhagavatam. Narada Muni appears on the scene and he sees this resolve of 5-year-old Dhruva. And he starts testing Dhruva's resolve. He tries to stop Dhruva from going ahead and performing all these great austerities in order to attain the Supreme Lord. He explains that, oh, Dhruva, you're just a small child. Small children don't take anything seriously. Don't you know that? 5-year-old children we see in this day and age, they cry and cry and cry, but as soon as they're pacified, they're ready to just move on to the next thing, the next joyous thing that they can experience. So Narada Muni is saying you should just be like that. You cried it out with your mother, you let off your steam. Now just go back and enjoy life as a kid, as a prince, as a young kid in the palace. Play with your toys, play with your friends, and just be happy. And Narad Muni further explains that even if you're thinking some sort of philosophy, even if you're thinking you're intelligent, then even then you have no reason to go out and be in the forest at a 5-year-old. Because as an intelligent person, you'll understand that there's a cycle of karma, and you accept that maybe because of your own past deeds, past actions in a previous life, you have received these reactions. And Narad Muni then also goes further and says that, look, maybe you don't want to accept that you're a child and you want to go and perform austerities. Maybe you can't accept the fact that maybe there's some karmic reaction happening here. But even if you endeavor and continue trying to search for the Lord, the chances of success are almost nil. Because even great sages, great mystic yogis, for hundreds and thousands of years are trying to attain the Supreme Lord, but they're unable to do so. So what chances do you have as a 5-year-old son or a 5-year-old boy? What chances do you have? And Dhruva is amazing. He hears all of this. He accepts everything Narada Muni says as truth. But then he tells Narada Muni, oh, no. I accept everything you are saying. Everything you are saying can penetrate the heart of the Brahmanas, can penetrate the heart of those who are not of a Kshatriya nature. I am a Kshatriya son, and the only way my anger will be pacified is if I attain that kingdom of God greater than Brahma. And so, dear Narad Muni, the celestial sage who travels all throughout the universe, if you can guide me in how to attain the Supreme Lord, then speak to me. Otherwise, get out of my path, stop wasting my time, and let me be, and let me go and find this Narayan who can free me of all of these miseries and grant me my benediction. And Narada Muni, hearing this assertiveness from Dhruva at such a young age, imagine a 5-year-old son who is so spirited, his Kshatriya spirit is so strong that he's rejecting any sort of guidance that will bring him peace and prosperity in a more calming and soothing way. He's rejecting all sorts of pacification from his mother, from Narada Muni, and he's one-pointed, Vivasatmika Buddhir, on attaining the Supreme Lord. And Narada Muni sees this and he's pleased. And so we hear how Narada Muni then instructs Dhruva on how to perform great austerities, how to control his breathing, how to control his eating habits, and all these different things. And he also gives Dhruva a meditation, right? How to worship the Lord through meditation. And also he gives him a mantra to chant. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So Narada Muni gives Dhruva all of this just to attain the Supreme Lord. And so then Dhruva goes out, he goes and enters, it's described, Madhuvan forest, the very same Madhuvan forest that we hear in Krishna's pastimes. And he starts performing these severe austerities. He starts reducing his food intake to such an extent that within some months, he basically masters the art of pranayam, where he's even controlling his breath. He doesn't even breathe for several, I think it's weeks or days at least. And in doing all of this, he's creating such devastation, such suffocation in all 3 planetary systems that the demigods then go to the Supreme Lord and questions him, what is happening? Who is this person? Who is this 5-year-old boy who's performing all these austerities and completely creating such havoc in all 3 worlds? And the Supreme Lord is like, no, he's not a demon. He's actually my devotee. And as my devotee, he is performing these austerities. And in this way, he is trying to attain me. So please do not worry. I promise to intervene. I will go to Dhruva and I will offer him his benedictions. And so Dhruva, so the Supreme Lord goes to Dhruva. And as he appears before Dhruva at this point, this is actually beginning of this chapter, chapter 9 of Canto 4. The Supreme Lord appears on the scene, and upon appearing, he sees that Dhruva is in a deep state of meditation. He is meditating on the Supreme Lord within his heart. And so as the Supreme Lord appears externally, he actually initiates a bit of a reaction in Dhruva Maharaj's meditation, such that Dhruva is disturbed, his meditation becomes disturbed. And as Dhruva opens his eyes, he sees the very same Supreme Lord that he saw in his heart manifest externally. And when that happens, Dhruva's ecstasy is such that he just desires to offer his obeisances. He desires to drink the nectar of the beauty of the Supreme Lord with his eyes. And as he does that, he's then desiring to offer prayers to the Supreme Lord. That he's thinking, I'm a 5-year-old boy, and this Supreme Lord must be offered the best prayers, the most profound prayers. But I'm only 5 years old. What prayers do I know? How can I glorify Uttama Shloka, the one who is praised by the best verses, by the best prayers? How can I offer him my prayers? And so out of the mercy of the Lord then, as we see the very famous picture, takes his conch in his hand and puts it against Dhruva Maharaj's forehead. And it's described that as that happens, Dhruva Maharaj, or Prince Dhruva at that time, 5-year-old boy, becomes an expert in all Vedic knowledge, in all Vedic prayers, in all Vedic wisdom, that he's able to offer profound prayers to the Supreme Lord. And these are the prayers that we hear about or read about in verses 6 to 17 of chapter 9 of Canto 4. So what I'll do is I will share my screen. You can see that, Prabhu?
Yes, Prabhu.
Yeah. Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
So I will just read out one verse at a time, and then I'll stop sharing in between so that we can do full screen, and then we will go through the verses. But yeah, like I said, it'll be nice to see everyone because I can see you guys in the corner of my screen. So please do turn your cameras on if you can. Okay, so text 6. Thank you so much. More people are showing their faces. Jay. Okay, text 6. Dhruva Maharaj said, "My dear Lord, you are all powerful. After entering within me, you have enlivened all my sleeping senses. My hands, legs, ears, touch sensation, life force, and especially my power of speech. Let me offer my respectful obeisances unto you." The very first thing that Dhruva Maharaj shares is about how all of his senses, his mind has become enlivened and enlightened by the darshan of the Supreme Lord. We have a very famous bhajan by Bhakti Thakur, Jiva Jago, Gora Chandra Bole, Gota Nidra Jao Maya, Pishachari Kole. It's a bhajan where Bhakti Thakur is calling out, Lord Gauranga is calling, wake up, sleeping souls, wake up, sleeping souls. How long will you sleep in the lap of the witch called Maya? We're all sleeping in the lap of Maya, and here, Dhruva Maharaj, or here in the bhajan of Bhakti Thakur, we are being encouraged to actually wake up. We think that waking up in the morning, putting on, going, having a shower, going through our bathroom routine, brushing our teeth, etc., we are now finally awake. But how awake are we? Because it's described that actually, even though we may be materially awake, spiritually we may still be sleeping. Because when our senses and our life is engaged in just looking after the body, you know, we perform so many activities for the body. We'll perform routines, we'll have, you know, emotional care for the body, we'll have practical care for the body, we'll have financial care for the body, we'll have so many different types of care for the body. All of that just to perform the basic necessities of all living entities, right? Animals do this also: sleeping, eating, mating, defending. We do so much for the body just for these four things, that actually it's just performing these activities for dead matter, because the body is just dead matter. But actually being awakened or coming to an awakened state, it's all about infusing everything that we are doing with spiritual consciousness. And when all of our activities, all of our meditation, all of our consciousness and thoughts throughout the day are infused with spiritual consciousness, we see that the senses become entirely engaged joyfully in serving the Lord. We see in Canto 9 the very famous pastime of Ambrish Maharaj. And Ambrish Maharaj is a king. He's a king of an entire kingdom. He has family. He has citizens to look after. In very famous verse, it's described how he engages every sense in the service of the Lord. It's described that he engages his mind in meditating on the lotus feet of the Lord. He's using his words to glorify the Lord, his hands to clean the Lord's temple, his ears in hearing the words spoken by the Lord. He's engaging his eyes in seeing the deities, the temple, and places. He's using his feet to go to places of pilgrimage. He's using his hands, his sense of touch, to touch the bodies of the devotees. He's using his sense of smell to smell the beautiful flowers that are offered to the Lord. He's using his tongue to taste the prasadam of the Lord. And like this, he's using all of his senses in service of the Lord. And yet he is a king, and yet he is looking after all these citizens. We may not be at a stage where we can utilize every single one of our senses 24/7, like Ambrish Maharaj, in the service of the Lord, because we still have some desires, some material desires that are stopping us from doing so. We still have some conditionings. But there we take shelter of the Lord, we take shelter of the energy of the Lord in Bhagavad Gita. And actually the very middle verse of the Bhagavad Gita, 9:13, is described, Mahatmana stumam partha devim prakritim ashitaha bhajantyananya manaso gnatva bhutadim avyayam. It's described, Krishna saying to Arjuna, O son of Pritha, those who are not deluded, the great souls, are under the protection of the divine nature. They're fully engaged in devotional service because they know me as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the original and inexhaustible. The great sages, the great sadhus, they are constantly taking shelter of the divine energy of the Lord. And that's the endeavor that we have to take. If we want to wake up our senses, if we want our mind to be infused with spiritual consciousness, we have to endeavor to take shelter of the Supreme Lord, as my Guru Maharaj would say, moment to moment. Recently, we were hearing a talk, a house program by His Grace Vraj Bihari Prabhu from India. And he was quoting Radhanath Maharaj, and how Radhanath Maharaj would say that one's spiritual life goes on two tracks. One track is the track of sadhana, one's discipline practice, one's following the four regulative principles, one chanting sincerely the 16 rounds and performing, you know, all these practices, devotional practices. And the other track is the track of choice, the track of intentionally choosing Krishna and acting in a way that connects us to Krishna. And so when one follows these two tracks, when the two tracks of spiritual life go side by side, then we see that through that consistent practice, one comes to a point where one's entire life is dedicated and engaged in the service of the Lord. And some point comes where, after diligent, consistent practice for many, many years, we actually know nothing else but service to the Lord. I was driving a very senior Vaishnava recently, and I was driving him home. And he was sharing in the car about how he like he had recently gone through a stroke, actually, and half of his body was paralyzed, and he was recovering. So it wasn't that he was still suffering from the the extreme of paralysis, but he was still struggling. You could see that his health was still not great, and he was still needing support, and his body was paining and everything. And he was sharing with me how actually he feels such misfortune that he can't practice his devotional life as much as in the way he used to, because naturally the body is paining, naturally he can't, his capacity is lower. And then I was sharing how such gratitude and appreciation and extraordinaire of his position, that even though he's going through so much pain, his entire life is still dedicated to the Supreme Lord. And he was sharing with me very humbly, but very honestly, that actually the only reason why he can go on is because he knows nothing but service to the Lord. His life for so many decades has just been dedicated to serving the Lord that now he doesn't know what else to do in life. And that's a position from his consistent, dedicated, and sincere practice, where he has come to this point where his whole life revolves around Krishna. And therefore, even when calamities come in his life, he's got nothing else to turn to because he doesn't know what else to turn to but Krishna. And so that is something that we all can aspire for, where we are diligently, slowly but surely taking shelter of the Lord, choosing Krishna moment to moment, such that a point comes in our life where even when calamities hit, even when health hits, even when so many things hit our life, we know nothing but continuing our service to the Lord in the best way we can. And in the purport, Srila Prabhupada actually says in one of the paragraphs, I won't show my screen on that. This process of purifying the senses and engaging them in the service of the Lord is known as bhakti, or devotional service. In the beginning, the senses are engaged by the direction of the spiritual master and shastra. And after realization, when the same senses are purified, the engagement continues. The difference is that in the beginning, the senses are engaged in a mechanical way. But after realization, they're engaged in spiritual understanding. I'll repeat the last line. The difference is that in the beginning, the senses are engaged in a mechanical way. It doesn't necessarily come naturally to us to engage in the service of the Lord. It's mechanical. But after realization, they're engaged in spiritual understanding. Once we attain a state of realization, then what was seemingly unnatural, what was seemingly us forcing ourselves to serve the Lord, just becomes second nature. Such a powerful point that Srila Prabhupada shares in the purport. The way to awaken our senses to spiritual realization is by engaging consistently, even if mechanically, in the service of the Lord. And over time, like the senior Vaishnava I was talking about, we'll know nothing but serving the Lord. So, moving on to the next verse, text 7. Would anybody like to read, actually? It would be nice to have somebody else read.
Yeah, I can read.
Go ahead.
Yeah, my Lord, you are the Supreme One, but my different energies, but by your different energies, you appear differently in the spiritual and material worlds. You create the total energy of your material world by your external potency, and after creation, you enter within the material world as the super soul. You are the supreme person, and through the temporary modes of material nature, you create varieties of manifestation, just as fire entering into wood of different shapes burns brilliantly in different varieties.
Thank you so much. So here in this verse, what we see is that Dhruva Maharaj is making it very clear that the Supreme Lord is a person. It's not a void. It's not impersonal. The Supreme Lord is personal. Sometimes people think that, oh, the void is the highest, or, nothingness is the highest. But that's not what the Bhagavatam depicts. That's not what the Bhagavatam understands and explains to us. Throughout many, many pastimes, we see that even the most impersonal people, right, those who recognize Brahman as the supreme, or who are attracted to Brahman, they become attracted to the devotional service of the Lord. We see the pastime in, I think it's Canto 4 itself. No, sorry, Canto 3. How the four Kumaras, the four sons of Brahma, who had basically been born with Brahma's intention of getting them married so that they can procreate, right, expand the population of the universe. But as soon as they're born, at a very young age, they're like, no, 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 no. We recognize the absolute truth. You want us to serve the absolute truth. We're not going to go through anything but service to the absolute truth. Therefore, we renounce any form of social etiquette and social life. We renounce any form of getting engaged with the opposite gender. We even renounce old age, the idea of getting old. And so they stay as young children, right? And we see that they go up to Vaikuntha planets at some point in search of actually associating and spending time with Lord Narayan in the spiritual planet. But it's interesting because they weren't there to take shelter of the Lord, like how we are, at least many of us will understand that Supreme Lord, at least theoretically, is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Bhagwan realization is the topmost. They went with the understanding that Narayan is the closest to full spiritual realization of impersonal Brahman, and therefore they wanted to get his association that way. But as they went up to the Vaikuntha planets, or the planet, they passed through 6 gates, and we know that they got stopped by the doorkeepers of Vaikuntha, Jay and Vijay, at the 7th gate. But what happens next is that the Supreme Lord comes onto the scene, and just by the fragrance of the tulsi leaves at the lotus feet of the Lord, they get attracted to Lord Narayan and recognize that, hang on, we thought that Brahman realization was topmost, but no, 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 no. Actually, Bhagwan realization is topmost. We want to now serve you, Supreme Lord. We see another very famous pastime with Shukadev Goswami. Shukadev Goswami was a great spiritualist from the womb. He understood spiritual realization. He understood the nature of material nature being an entrapment, a trap of Maya. And so he stayed in the womb for 16 years. And Lord Krishna himself comes to tell Shukadev that, don't worry, you come out of the womb. I'll make sure that you remain spiritually perfect. Maya will not touch you. And as soon as Shukadev Goswami comes out of the womb, no family attachment, no attachment to mother, no attachment to father, immediately sets off, leaves. And his father, Vyasadeva, is trying to go, Shukadev, no, come back, come back. But Shukadev, completely detached, just walks on. And thus we see and hear how Vyasadeva then expertly shares 2 verses with his disciples and sends his disciples after Shukadev. The first verse, actually I'll bring it up. The first verse describing actually let's go with the external first. 10:21, 2:23, 10:21, 5. The first verse describing the external beauty of Krishna, wearing a peacock feather ornament upon his head, blue karnikara flowers on his ears, a flower garment as brilliant as gold, and the Vaijayanti garland. Lord Krishna exhibited his transcendental form as the greatest of dancers as he entered the forest of Vrindavan, beautifying it with the marks of his footprints. He filled the holes of his flute with the nectar of his lips, and the cowherd boys sang his glories. That's Śrīmad Bhāgavatam, Canto 10, Chapter 21, verse 5. Shukadev hears this verse and he's thinking, there is somebody who is so beautiful. In this world, many people rate people. You know, you've got like Miss Universe, Miss World, etc., etc. We rate people 10 on 10, 9 on 10. Here, Shukdev Goswami is hearing this beauty of Krishna, this external beauty of Krishna, and going, he's not 10 on 10, he's not 20 on 10, he's 1,000 on 10. But in this world, we see that some people have external beauty, but no internal beauty. And those who have internal beauty rarely have external beauty. And so Shukdev Goswami is thinking, yes, somebody may be so beautiful externally, but, oh wait, sorry, I didn't share my screen right. But what about his internal character? No way there is anybody so beautiful that externally and internally is so beautiful. And thus, the second verse that comes up, 3 to 23. Alas, how shall I take shelter of one more merciful than he, who granted the position of mother to a she-demon, Putana, although she was unfaithful and she prepared deadly poison to be sucked from her breast. We heard the famous pastime of Putana and Krishna, where Putana is trying to poison Krishna by making him suck the milk and then the poison from her breast. But how merciful, how loving is Krishna that he gives the position of a mother to such a person who came to kill him. And so Shukadeva Goswami's mind is blown. Not only is Krishna externally the most beautiful person in all of existence, but even his internal character. If somebody tried to kill me, I'd be staying a mile away. I'd be getting a warrant, you know, like I forgot what it's called, but like, you know, they can't come near me for like, I wouldn't even say 100 meters, it'd be like a mile, you know, a mile radius. But here is Krishna embracing Putana as a mother. And thus Shukadeva Goswami's heart melts. He goes back and he hears and learns the whole Śrīmad Bhāgavatam from Vyasadeva. We see throughout history those who have a realization of Bhagwan, Paramatma, and Brahman, but who are oriented towards Paramatma or Brahman realization. Somehow, in some way, Bhagwan realization becomes the attractive force for them. And so going back to this verse 7, we see how Dhruva Maharaj is basically very much emphasizing this point that the Supreme Lord is not an energy, it's not Brahman. He's not just the super soul in the heart, but he is a person, Bhagwan. And we hear in this verse how that person has multiple energies that are expanded in different ways. And in the last part of this verse, we see how, where is it? You are the Supreme Person, and through the temporary modes of material nature, you create varieties of manifestation, just as fire entering into wood or different shapes burns brilliantly in different varieties. We hear how these energies then expand into different forms, and we see how people are engaged in different activities as a result, different temporary activities. And even the devotees are engaged in these activities. But the difference is that the activities of the devotees are not temporary, even though externally the manifestation is temporary. But because they are associated to serving the Lord, they're actually eternal in nature. These shapes become eternal. And so where, and Prabhupada explains this in the purport, that where the non-devotees, for the non-devotees, Maya is acting, the Maya Shakti is acting. For the devotees, it's actually the Swadharma Shakti, or the dutiful potency of the Lord that is acting. So moving on, I am conscious of time. Are we okay if we run over?
Yeah, it's completely fine, Prabhu.
Okay, perfect. Text 8. O my master, Lord Brahma is fully surrendered unto you. In the beginning, you gave him knowledge, and thus he could see and understand the entire universe. Just as a person awakens from sleep and visualizes immediate duties, you're the only shelter of all persons who desire liberation, and you're the friend of all who are distressed. How therefore can a learned person who has perfect knowledge ever forget you? So here in this verse, we see how even Brahma glorifies Krishna as the Supreme Lord. Ishvara Parama Krishna Satchidananda Vigraha Anadiradir Govinda Sarvakarana Karanam. Lord Brahma in the Brahma Samhita glorifies Krishna as the Supreme Lord, as the one who has an Adir Govinda Sarvakarana Karanam, who is the origin of all, who has no other origin, and Sarvakarana Karanam, who is the cause of everything and it has no other cause. Sometimes in classic Hinduism, we have the trinity of Brahma, Vishnu, Mahesh. But here we see that Brahma is glorifying that Krishna is actually supreme to any of us. He's the cause of everything. He's the origin of everything. We see in the very beginning, Śrīmad Bhāgavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 1, Verse 1, a very famous line there is, Tena Brahma Hridayadi Kavaya, right? Tena Brahma Hridayadi Kavaya, where Krishna is described as the one who imparts all of Vedic knowledge into the heart of Brahma, the original living being, right? Brahma is described as the original living being, and Krishna is the one who imparts into the heart of Brahma all of Vedic knowledge. And we see so many different sections. Even the Chaturshloki of the Bhagavatam is Krishna speaking to, or Vishnu speaking to Brahma in 4 verses, the whole essence of spiritual life. The sambandha, the relationship the living entity has with the Lord, the abhidaya, the practice by which one can come to a state of realizing the Lord in the heart, and also the prayojana, the end state, the end goal of such practice. All of this compact into 4 verses that Krishna speaks to Brahma. And from there, the entire Śrīmad Bhāgavatam then manifests, just from those 4 verses. In this verse of text 8, we also hear about how Krishna is described to be the best friend, or the friend of all who are distressed. We see in the Bhagavad Gita, Suridam Sarva Bhutanam, that Krishna is the benefactor and the well-wishing best friend of all living entities. Actually, there's no other best friend. In this world, we say, oh, we are friends of each other, we are best friends of each other, but there is no best friend, because which best friend in this world can give us perfection in life? We may say, oh, the devotees give that, but even the devotees have limitations because there's some conditioning. And even if they are pure devotees, they acknowledge that the only reason why they can be remotely close to being a best friend is because they're carrying Krishna in their heart. And because Krishna is in their heart, they're actually giving us association with Krishna, who is indeed the best friend of all living entities. Because the Lord goes anywhere we go. If we decide that in our next life we want to be so attached to eating meat that we become an animal, a tiger or something like that, the Lord is such a best friend that he will go with us as a super soul. Which friend around us will be willing to go with us to our next life like that? Nobody. And even if they desired, they couldn't, because we are bound just by karma. That is what the relationships of this world are. And so the Lord explains, or here we see, even in purple, Prabhupada explains that actually, for those who are constantly engaged in serving or in devotional service with love and affection, the Lord, we know, gives the intelligence by which one can come back to him. We know that from the Bhagavad Gita. And so we see that one who truly understands that the Supreme Lord is the best friend, then how will such a person who is so learned, who has realized that actually there's nothing in this world but the friendship of Krishna, how would such a person ever forget the Supreme Lord in any situation? It's not possible, because such a learned person recognizes what is best for them. Okay, next verse. Text 9. Anybody else like to read? Gayatri Mataji, maybe?
Sure. Hare Krishna Prabhuji. The 10th one, right?
9th.
9th. Okay. The persons who worship you simply for the sense gratification of this bag of skin are certainly influenced by your illusionary energy. In spite of having you who are like a desire tree and are the cause of liberation from birth and the death. Foolish persons such as me desire benedictions from you for sense gratification, which is available even for those who live in hellish conditions.
Thanks so much. There's a very nice story of an old woman walking through the forest, and she's like cut down woods, and she's like carrying a big stack of wood, firewood, home. And at some point, she's walking and she's walking. She's trying to balance, it's heavy wood, heavy firewood on her head, and they have baskets sometimes that they carry everything in. And she's carrying so much, and at some point she trips, and it all falls onto the floor, onto the ground, and she screams, "Oh, Krishna!" And Krishna, her scream was so loud, penetrated through the atmosphere to such a depth that Krishna actually appears before her and goes, "Oh, mother, what can I do for you?" And this old woman then says, "Oh, Krishna, thank God you're here. All of this burden has fallen onto the ground. Please pick it up and put it back onto my head and shoulders." Krishna listens. He does that. But what a misfortunate position for that old woman. Krishna himself came in front of her. She could have asked for anything and everything. She could have asked for entrance into the spiritual world. But she asked, "Please put the burden that was on my head and shoulders, that has fallen off, back on." And isn't that our situation? We are praying to Krishna. We go in front of Krishna at the temple and pray, "Please, Krishna, give me a 64-inch TV, a Mercedes-Benz, a 3-bed apartment, kids that listen to me, and all these different things." Because we think that if we get these things, we will be free of our misery. But we're just transferring a burden from here to there and taking on other burdens in life. Because once we get all these things, then the 3-bed apartment now means we need a surveillance system, we need an alarm system, we need protection and defense. We get a Mercedes-Benz and we're constantly looking out the window and making sure it's not damaged. We drive it carefully. As soon as somebody is driving fast, we're like, no, slow down, and we move to the left or right, whichever way around it is. We invite so much anxiety in our life just for the burdens that we want to carry in this very life. And Dhruva Maharaj here is depicting that very same situation, because he set out to attain a kingdom bigger than Brahma. And he's realizing that I am just asking for sense gratification from the Supreme Lord, when actually the best thing for me to do is just to offer myself to him, because he can give me anything and everything. Why ask for material things from the Lord when he can give me everything? In the purport, Srila Prabhupada says, if a devotee worships the Lord for such insignificant happiness, he must be considered devoid of all knowledge. Because Krishna can give us so much, and yet we ask for improvements in our material situations. We may not be pure, we may not be ready to pray just for devotional service and nothing else, but at least we can pray that, please, Krishna, give me the purity and the consciousness that I may at some point desire nothing but the desire to serve and please you. All these other desires are there, all these other prayers are there, but may I also pray that I develop the desire to desire nothing but you. Okay. Anybody else for text 10? Anybody else like to read? No? Okay. Go ahead.
Amol,
Whoever muted.
maybe.
Yes, go ahead.
My Lord, the transcendental bliss delivered from meditating upon your lotus feet or hearing about your glories from your pure devotees is so unlimited that it is far beyond the stage of Brahmananda, wherein one thinks himself merged in the impersonal Brahman as one of as one with the Supreme. Since Brahmanda is also depicted by the transcendental bliss derived from the devotional service, then what to speak about the temporary blissfulness of elevating oneself to the heavenly planets, which is ended by the separating sword of time. Although one may be elevated to heavenly planet, he falls down in due course of time.
Thank you very much. So here we see the bliss of devotional service through the 9 processes that we know, right? Shravanam, Kirtan, Vishnu Smaran, etc., etc. We see that this process is far better and far more complete, that nothing else compares to it. Not Jnana Yoga, not Karma Yoga, not Mystic Yoga, not Ashtanga Yoga, nothing compares to it, right? We spoke about earlier the 4 Kumaras, and we spoke about Shukadeva Goswami and how they got attracted to devotional service of the Lord. And we see that if such elevated persons are attracted to the Supreme Lord, when they set out to attain complete merging in the impersonal Brahman, then what is more attractive than devotional service to the Lord? Because these personalities, Shukadeva Goswami, 4 Kumaras, etc., are the most elevated in all of creation. Then how attractive must devotional service be? And here in this verse also, near the end, we talk about the heavenly planets. If those who are attracted to liberation, those who are attracted to Brahman, are attracted to devotional service, in comparison, what is elevation to the heavenly planets? Because heavenly planets, when one burns their karma, their piety, right, their pious karma in the world, once they burn that off while staying in the heavenly planets, they're forced to come back down here anyway, or forced to go down into lower forms of life. So how attractive really is that? It looks attractive because instead of spending 100 years on Earth, we're spending 100 in Earth years, 100,000 years in the heavenly planets. We're enjoying life without misery. We're enjoying so many different things. But once our pious credit is complete, we come back down anyway. So here, Dhruva Maharaj is expressing his heart of how he recognizes now that actually there is nothing more than just serving the Lord. That is the best thing that I could have asked for. Alas, my position, I ask for a kingdom greater than Brahma. Text 11. Anybody like to read? Hema, Sahana, somebody?
Gayatri Atle Mataji, could you please read it, if possible?
Text 11.
Amol?
Everybody
is shy.
No,
Yeah.
I'll read it again. Okay. So
Yeah,
text
maybe Gayatri, you can go.
Yeah. Dhruva Maharaja continued, "O unlimited Lord, kindly bless me so that I may associate it with great devotees who engage in your transcendental loving service constantly. As the waves of a river constantly flow, such transcendental devotees are completely situated in an uncontaminated state of life. By the process of devotional service, I shall surely be able to cross the nascent ocean of the material existence, which is filled with the waves of blazing fire-like dangers. It will be very easy for me, for I am becoming mad to hear about your transcendental qualities and the pastimes, which are eternally existent." Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much. We have a very famous verse that many of us probably know. Sadhu Sanga Sarva Shatake, Lava Matra Sadhu Sanga Sarvish Siddhi Hoy. All the Vedic revelations from the scriptures are saying that even just a moment's association with a pure devotee is enough for one to attain complete success in life. Just by a moment's association with the pure devotee, complete success is guaranteed. And here Dhruva Maharaj is saying, I don't want a moment's association. I want incessant association. I just want to be with the devotees because the devotees are like tirthas. Or wherever the devotees are, it's a tirtha rather. Because the devotees carry the Supreme Lord in the heart. What is a tirtha, right? What is a place of pilgrimage? It's a place where Krishna has put his lotus feet, where he has walked around the land. And if in the devotee's heart, the pure devotee's heart, Krishna is always there present, and the devotee is constantly meditating on Krishna, then it is as good as a tirtha, wherever that devotee goes. Because they're carrying the Supreme Lord in the heart. And so we see that one's desire to associate with the Supreme Lord can fulfill all perfection. In, I think it's another, yeah, it's in Canto 3, chapter 25, verse 25. It said, in the association of pure devotees, discussion of the pastimes and activities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is very pleasing and satisfying to the ear and the heart. By cultivating such knowledge, one gradually becomes advanced on the path of liberation, and thereafter he is freed and his attraction becomes fixed. Then real devotion and devotional service begins. The words of Krishna can enter deep into our hearts only by the association of the pure devotees. So coming together in a Sangha like this is very it's amazing because we're associating with Srila Prabhupada through the texts. Many of us may be staying or living close to a temple. We should take advantage of visiting the temple regularly to take association of the devotees, especially when great sadhus come, great sannyasis come. We should find ways to connect with the devotees because it is only through, and especially senior devotees, because it's only through their association and their connection that we can enter deep into the absorption of Krishna consciousness. And that's actually how we should serve. We should aim to serve the pure devotees. We should aim to serve the projects of the pure devotees. Serving the pure devotees doesn't just mean serving their physical body or serving them when they come in town. We can also associate and serve them through their expanded projects and desires. And in such a way, when we perform service like this, when we associate with the pure devotees, we see that Krishna makes it very easy for us to cross beyond the ocean of material suffering. Devi Hirsha Gunamai Mama Maya Duratya is described in the Bhagavad Gita that actually being free of the three modes of nature that are constantly pulling us left, right, and center is very, very difficult. But then he says, Mam eva ya prapadyante mayam etam taranti te. He says that those who surrender unto me, for those I make it very easily available to cross beyond this ocean of material suffering. And so all we have to do is take shelter of Krishna. All we have to do is associate with the pure devotees. And all we have to do is serve those pure devotees and serve their life's mission. ISKCON is the life mission of Srila Prabhupada. Just by serving in ISKCON, whatever little we can do, we are serving Srila Prabhupada, and that is a wealth that we have available to us. Okay, verse 12. O Lord, who have a lotus navel, if a person happens to associate with a devotee whose heart always hankers after your lotus feet, seeking always their fragrance, he is never attached to the material body or in a bodily relationship to offspring, friends, home, wealth, and wife, which are very, very dear to materialistic persons. Indeed, he does not care for them. Such a hard-hitting verse that one is not attached to anything of this world, to anyone of this world. Not friends, not family, not home, not wealth, not spouse, not kids, nobody. We see that Bhaktivinoda Thakur was a householder with, sometimes it's described 10 kids, sometimes 13. 13 seems to be the more authentic one when we look at the lineage. But he had, needless to say, as many kids at the very least as we have fingers on our hands. Imagine how much involvement in household life he must have had. And yet he is glorified as an acharya, as somebody whose very presence in the history of Gaudiya Vaishnavism has left a mark which has transformed the way bhakti is seen in the world. And he was a householder. So here, Dhruva Maharaj is not actually saying anything negative. You know, sometimes devotees say, oh my gosh, you know, grahastha life, bad life, never go for it. Krishna, Srila Prabhupada, the acharyas, they never actually say that one ashram is better than the other. Every ashram has its pros, has its cons. Being a grahastha also has its pros and cons. But what this verse is really telling us or guiding us is how we should correctly utilize all of these assets in our life such that they don't become impediments for our bhakti, but they become supportive assets and supportive mechanisms to expand our bhakti. If you're a grihastha, you're in a position of being a caretaker for family, for spouse, for kids, whatever it is. But don't become absorbed in it. Don't make that the focus of your life. Having affection, having attachment is natural, is healthy, but don't let it become excessive. Don't let it become the central point of our life, because the central point is Krishna. And all of these other things, family, friends, work, whatever it is that we get engaged in, is there to support our journey to Krishna. And we are there to support their journey to Krishna. And if we make that the central theme of our relationships, of our engagement in the world, then we can live of this world. Sorry, we can live in this world, but not of this world, because our consciousness is constantly focused on how can I take everybody around me towards Krishna and still have loving relationships in this world. Because that's what loving relationships are. It's about moving towards Krishna together. And some people may be more advanced, some people may be quicker than others, but it's recognizing what does everybody need and connecting them in that way. Next verse, I'll just read it through because it'll be easier. Text 13. My dear Lord, O Supreme Brahman, O Supreme Unborn, I know that the different varieties of living entities such as animals, trees, birds, reptiles, demigods, and human beings are spread throughout the universe, which is caused by the total material energy. And I know that they are sometimes manifest and sometimes unmanifest. But I have never experienced the supreme form I behold as I see you now. Now all kinds of methods of theorizing have come to an end. Here we see how behind everything, all living entities, all of creation, Krishna is present. We hear the very famous example in the Bhagavad Gita, like pearls thread on a string. The pearls are everything we see in the world, the people around us, the living entities around us, and even material creation itself. But behind everything is the thread which joins it all together, right? If you imagine you have a pearl necklace, or as devotees, we have a tulsi necklace around us. How does a tulsi, or how do all those tulsi beads stay connected? Because there's a thread that goes through them. Can you see the thread? Not necessarily, right? If it's crafted excellently, then you don't even see the thread at all. In the same way, this material creation is there. It's crafted and engineered so expertly that even though Krishna is behind everything, we can't see Krishna present. There's 8.4 million species of life, but still the thread behind everything is Krishna. And so as we grow and mature in our devotion, we may not see the physical presence of Krishna there, but we will grow to see the hand of Krishna, how he has threaded everything in our life together. And we see that as we serve Krishna more, maturing in devotional service is not just about, or maturing in bhakti is not just about reading the books and studying the books. It's about performing service to the Lord through the 9 processes. And as we engage in those services, we see that Krishna gives us the intelligence by which we can see him and see his hand behind everything. In CC, we see a very famous pastime of a Brahmana, an illiterate Brahmana, who all the temple vasis were laughing at him. And they were laughing because he was holding the Bhagavad Gita upside down. And he was staring at the pages of the Bhagavad Gita. He's illiterate. He doesn't know how to read. And as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu comes up to him and he's seeing that all these other residents of the temple are laughing at this Brahmana, he's thinking, why are they laughing? So he goes up to the Brahmana and he goes, what are you doing? Oh, I'm reading the Bhagavad Gita. You're reading the Bhagavad Gita, but it's upside down. Why are you crying so much? Brahmana explains, oh, I didn't know it's upside down because I'm illiterate. I can't read. But I'm reading because my Guru Maharaj told me I must read. So then why are you crying? You know, you read something, you see something, you understand it, therefore you cry, right? Like you have emotions. And he's like, I can't read, but I'm crying because every time I think of the picture of the battle of Kurukshetra, the picture of the Bhagavad Gita, where Krishna, God himself, is the chariot driver of Arjun, my heart melts and I start crying. I shed tears upon tears because I'm thinking, how amazing, how merciful, how beautiful, how loving is my sweet Lord that he is willing to become a chariot driver, an insignificant chariot driver for his devotees. And Mahaprabhu then tells this Brahmana that you may not have studied and read the Bhagavad Gita. You may not be capable because you're illiterate to go through the pages and intellectually understand the Bhagavad Gita. But you are the greatest of all the devotees here because you have understood the essence of the Bhagavad Gita, the loving relationship between Krishna and Arjun. And so in that way, we see here that practically speaking, for Dhruva Maharaj, a 5-year-old boy, it's impossible for him to understand the absolute truth. But because of his dedicated and consistent service and austerities he had performed, and the mercy that the Lord placed on his head through the conch shell, 5-year-old Dhruva Maharaj is, through his lotus lips, is sharing glorifications of the Lord that you and I as adults would struggle with. Okay, next verse. We did 13, so 14. My dear Lord, at the end of each millennium, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Garbhodakshaya Vishnu, dissolves everything manifested within the universe into his belly. He lies down on the lap of Sheshnag. From his navel sprouts a golden lotus flower on a stem, and on that lotus, Lord Brahma is created. I can understand that you are the same Supreme Godhead. I therefore offer my respectful obeisances unto you. I'll keep this one brief. There's 2 ways we can see this verse, or the way I'm seeing this verse. One is 5-year-old Dhruva Maharaj is depicting the creation of the material universe by talking about Garbhodakshaya Vishnu, how from him the lotus, where is it? Here. The lotus flower stems, and on there, Lord Brahma is there. We see the creation being described by Dhruva Maharaj. And this creation is depicted in Śrīmad Bhāgavatam, cantos 2, 5, and some other places. And as we read, or as I read through the Śrīmad Bhāgavatam, I come across these sections and I'm scratching my head. How on earth do I understand this? It's going over my head. This can't make sense. And yet Dhruva Maharaj very casually is explaining, I fully understand how the Lord has created this universe. again, going back to the point of that is only possible because the Lord has given him his mercy, his benediction of being able to understand all of the Vedic conclusions. But the other way we can see this is how there's a contradiction, or a apparent contradiction between modern science and the Śrīmad Bhāgavatam. How the description of creation in the Bhāgavatam seems almost like mythological, right? How can you have somebody coming down and then from them pores emanate, and in those from the pores like sweat drops emanate. From those, there's a whole universe that gets created, and in there there's another form of Vishnu, and from him a flower comes from the navel. Like how is this even possible? This is nonsensical. This is mythical, right? But then we look at modern science, where universe is created from a Big Bang, if we take the Big Bang theory. How everything starts from a singularity, and from that singularity, fluctuations happen, and a whole creation, a whole universe is created. Both, actually, if you think about it, are not logical in a normal, mundane sense of mind. And yet, we'll see atheists will turn towards science. I was hearing my Guru Maharaj recently, and he was talking about, I can't remember who it was, but a scientist who was talking about how science is actually just another form of religion. Religion has scriptures. We have scriptures called research papers. Religion has like gurus. We have scientists. And like this, he was going through different things and then explaining that the only thing science didn't have is a deity. You know, a lot of religions have deities in some way, shape, or form, or some sort of object of worship. And now scientists have a deity called the computer. That's how amazing the computer is for scientists. And so we see that actually science, modern science, is nothing but a form of religion, because you have to have faith. You have to have faith that the research that was conducted is authentic. You have to have faith that the scientists are presenting what they understand to be the truth as the absolute truth. But we also see and understand that science is constantly evolving. There's a new concept of science called paradigms, where there's not one way to understand the world around us. There are different paradigms. Well, what if one of those paradigms is to understand the world through the lens of the Shastra, through the lens of the absolute truth that is depicted in the Śrīmad Bhāgavatam? Okay, next verse, text 15. My Lord, by your unbroken transcendental glance, you are the supreme witness of all stages of intellectual activities. You are eternally liberated, your existence is situated in pure goodness, and you are existent in the supersoul without change. You are the original personality of Godhead, full with 6 opulences, and you are eternally the master of the 3 modes of material nature. Thus, you are always different from the ordinary living entities. As Lord Vishnu, you maintain all the affairs of the entire universe, and yet you stand aloof and are the enjoyer of the results of all sacrifices. Here, actually, I should have continued sharing. Here we see that Dhruva Maharaj is depicting the difference between the Supreme Lord, or Vishnu Tattva, and the living entity, meaning Jiva Tattva. We see how the Supreme Lord is described to be eternally liberated, because he is beyond the 3 modes. He is beyond the material creation. It's like if you had a small business owner, right, who has some employees. He creates rules. He creates regulations. He creates a whole system by which the employees must engage with the business. But do those rules apply to the businessman, to the owner of the business? No. He's free to do whatever he wants. If your work contract says you must work 9 to 5, that doesn't apply to the business owner. He can come up, rock up at 10, he can leave at 1, he can do whatever he wants. It's described that the Lord is situated in pure goodness because he is beyond the 3 modes of material nature. He is ever situated in a transcendental body. Even when he comes down to the material world, he doesn't come down like us and takes on a material body. It's described that he descends, he incarnates, he descends.
in his spiritual form. You're existent in the supersoul without change. We take on different bodies based on our karma, based on our desires. But the supersoul goes with us in the ever present, in the ever same form. You're the original personality of Godhead, full with 6 opulences. There are 6 opulences that describe Bhagavan. I forget who it is. I think it's Parashara Muni, I think. Anyway, a great sage has explained how Bhagavan refers to the 6 opulences. In this world, we see people are attracted to beauty. Krishna is the one who has all beauty. People are attracted to wealth. Krishna is the one who has all wealth. People are attracted to strength. You know, they go to gyms trying to build big muscles. Krishna has all strength. People are attracted to fame, trying to get on social media, trying to get a million followers, 10 million followers, etc., etc. Krishna is all famous. People, what did it go through? Beauty, strength. Oh, people are attracted to knowledge, wisdom, right? They want to study so many books. Krishna is all-knowing because he knows past, present, future. He knows everything. People are attracted to, okay, no, I'm not attracted to anything of this world. I'm a renunciate. I'm attracted to minimalism. I'm attracted to reducing the needs of life, renunciation. Krishna is all renunciate. He is that person who is capable of being so attracted to the gopis that he is compelled to dance on their tunes, and yet the very next moment he is willing to leave them, whether it's at the rasa dance or whether it's leaving Vrindavan in order to go and perform the rest of his pastimes in the material world. Like this, we see that Dhruva Maharaj is very nicely acknowledging the difference between the Lord, the Supreme Lord, and Jiva Tattva. Text 16. My dear Lord, in your impersonal manifestation of Brahman, there are always 2 opposing elements, knowledge and ignorance. Your multi-energies are continually manifest by the impersonal Brahman, which is undivided, original, changeless, unlimited, and blissful, is the cause of the material manifestation. Because you are the same impersonal Brahman, I offer my respectful obeisances unto you. We see that the impersonal Brahman is actually nothing but the effulgence of the Lord. And in the purport, actually, Srila gives a very nice pathway or journey through spiritual realization. And I want to be, before I go through it, I want to be careful on acknowledging the fact that there are some people who are spiritually advanced who are stuck at a stage of believing and seeing that Brahman realization is the topmost. They're fully absorbed in that. And yet they're described as spiritually advanced, but being stuck on a phase and not being able to see beyond the stage as something that there's beyond it can be very, very dangerous, which is why, for example, Prabhupada would often talk about how associating with Mayavadis, those who don't acknowledge something beyond the Brahman or don't acknowledge there being a supreme being even, is very, very dangerous, because they're fully, in modern sense, you could say, fully narrow-minded in their vision of understanding what supremacy means. And so here we see Prabhupada in the purple actually talks about how initially we are all in ignorance because we're influenced by Maya Shakti and nothing but Maya Shakti, right? We don't know or don't understand or see or acknowledge anything of a spiritual nature. But then we become a bit spiritually aware or spiritually inclined, and then we develop a bit of knowledge. And as we develop or advance a bit more, we become almost like a jnani, somebody who is a bit more learned in spiritual sciences. As we advance even more, we become Jnana Mishra Bhakti, right? Or sorry, Jnana Mishra Bhaktas, right? Those whose devotion is a devotee whose devotion is mixed with knowledge, right? So the bhakti is there, the recognition of a loving relationship is there, but it's very much oriented around knowledge of the absolute, etc. As you advance even more, then that knowledge, that Jnana Mishra Bhakti becomes even firmly established as one understands the absolute truth. One understands the nature of the energies of the absolute truth, and even understands and sees the absolute truth in a personal form. But the peak of the journey, the peak of the spiritual elevation, is when one comes to a stage of unalloyed devotion, of pure bhakti. Because in that stage, one might know all of these things, but it's secondary. Understanding the Lord and his energies is secondary. All we are absorbed in, all we are attracted to, and fully, our consciousness is fully taken over by, is the loving relationships and the transcendental pastimes between the Lord and his devotees. And that is something that the most advanced devotees relish. They experience transcendental bliss. We get attracted to it because, there is that spiritual element, there is that spiritual awakening that is there, part of it. But it's also part of our conditioning that, we're seeing, joyful exchanges. We want to be a part of it because that's what we're used to. We like these things. But there's still a lot of conditioning there. There's still a lot of tainted projection of our life or what we see in the world around us onto them. But when we approach the Bhagavatam, when we're able to come to a stage of approaching the pastimes of the Lord and just relishing the relationship between the Lord and his devotees, nothing but relish, that is a stage of pure bliss. And so, as we endeavor in our spiritual life, we can pray again that we come to this stage of pure unalloyed devotion to the Lord, where it's all about relishing the relationship between the Lord and his devotees, and live a life oriented around Krishna and not oriented around our senses and mind. Text 17, last one. I apologize, we are half an hour over. My Lord, O Supreme Lord, you are the supreme personified form of all benediction. Therefore, for one who abides in your devotional service with no other desire, worshipping your lotus feet is better than becoming king and lording it over a kingdom. That is the benediction of worshipping your lotus feet. To ignorant devotees like me, you are the causelessly merciful maintainer, just like a cow who takes care of the newly born calf by supplying milk and giving it protection from attack. From the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, we hear Anya Bhilashita Shunyam Jnana Karma Dinavitam Anukulyena Anukrishnanu Shiranam Bhaktiruttama. We hear that actually pure unalloyed devotion, first-class devotional service, is not mixed with any material desire, with any desire to obtain knowledge, with no desire to enjoy the fruits of our activities. The devotee constantly serves Krishna in a way which is favorable to the desires of Krishna and nothing else. It is not even about what we attain from doing the service. It is all about, is this pleasing Krishna? And so that is what pure devotion is. It is devoid of any desire. And we see here, Dhruva again is lamenting his position that he approached the Lord with a desire to attain a kingdom bigger than Brahma. He's lamenting on his subpar devotion because it was mixed. If anything, it began with purely a selfish motive. And so similar to Dhruva, we can recognize that our bhakti, how pure is it? How pure is our prayer? How pure is our devotion? At least I speak for myself. I think it's very, very shallow because it is mixed with temporary desires. It is mixed with the dreams of this world. But when one attains the opportunity to really serve the Lord, to serve the lotus feet of Krishna, then a point in time will come and can come, if we are sincere and serious, that we recognize that there's nothing beyond serving the Lord. We come to the Lord praying and begging for so many things of this world, but actually, like Dhruva, we will come to this point, and we pray to come to this point that actually there's nothing here. There's nothing in the world that is more desirable than just serving the lotus feet of the Lord. And the Lord is merciful, like he says here. You're the causeless, merciful maintainer, just like a cow who takes care of the newly born calf by supplying milk and giving it protection from attack. The Lord protects such devotees who are sincere and serious. He doesn't let the devotees go empty-handed. Later on in the pastime, we see that the Supreme Lord gives Dhruva Loka, that kingdom in the world that is beyond even Satya Loka, beyond the residence of Brahma, very close to the Vaikuntha planet that exists in this world. But we have to come to that stage of taking shelter of Krishna in that way, of recognizing that there's nothing else but Krishna. But Krishna is merciful, that he is encouraging and inspiring and pulling the devotee closer to him. He's molding our life such that we may come to him. Tesham satata yuktanam bhajatam priti purvakam dadami buddhi yogam tam tena mam upayanti te. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita chapter 10 that for those who are constantly endeavoring to serve Krishna with love and devotion, Krishna gives the understanding, Krishna gives the intelligence, Krishna gives the maturity by which the devotee can come to him. And so for us, we are prone to mistakes. The path is very difficult. The path is slippery. Padam padam yat vipadam. The path is full of obstacles that will trip us up at every step. But we can always trust and rely on the Lord to make arrangements for us to come back to him, for us to be elevated in our consciousness such that a point in time will come where through our consistent endeavors, through our consistent choice of Krishna throughout our life, and maturing by choosing Krishna more and more, a point will come where we will know nothing but the service of the Lord. And so even though our hearts are full of so much dust, our hearts are full of so many material desires, we pray to come in front of the Lord and simply pray. Simply pray to be constantly engaged in his transcendental loving service, in the association of his pure devotees, because that is the progression of the prayers of Dhruva Maharaj in this pastime. That is the progression of Dhruva Maharaj's own consciousness, of his own understanding of his unfortunate and misfortunate position of wanting benedictions from the Lord instead of just serving the Supreme Lord. So I'll end there. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama,
Hare
Hare
Ram,
Rama,
Hare
Rama
Ram,
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 Hare
Hare
Hare.
Hare.
Shabbat ki
Well, thank you so much, Prabhu, for explaining this topic so deeply at in such a simple and easy to understand way. Also, you beautifully explained about how Dhruva Maharaj was teaches about the determination and strong faith in our devotional life. So now I would like to invite the audience. If anyone has any questions or reflection, please feel free to ask. So anybody has any question?
Yeah, like I would like to discuss a thing you mentioned that we could really relate to this thought that we wake up materially but not spiritually. And even though we are able to fulfill our basic needs, we have desires and we are asking for that burden to Krishna, even though while into the bhakti, right? So what is the way out to this? Like what will be the correction we could make on a daily basis, those little practices that will lead us to the right path and the correction? And also, other thing I have in my mind, like at initial stage in the beginning, you mentioned it is mechanically. Those we are recently entered in the path, and we are doing like chanting or the association or the bhajan things. So maybe it is mechanically at this moment. So how it could turn into the naturally, like again the practices and the habits that will turn it the naturally.
Okay, thanks for sharing. Two very interesting questions. So first one is about how do we, if I understand it correctly, how do we intensify ourselves to wake up to spiritual knowledge, to the spiritual, enliven our senses spiritually instead of just waking up materially, right? There's this concept of Gyan and Vigyan that is coming up quite recently for me, so maybe it's something I need to think about for myself. We can read and study and do all these practices and just attain Gyan. We can just attain knowledge, theoretical knowledge of Krishna, of the absolute truth, of the relation between Krishna and the devotees. Like any of us can give class. Yeah, any of us, everyone on this, in this room, on this Google Meets room, could give a class. But what separates the depth of the class that we see and experience from the advanced devotees and ourselves is the fact that they have realization of whatever they're sharing. Realization is what separates our, I'm going to be a bit strong in my phrase, but our shallow bhakti to the depth of bhakti that these advanced Vaishnavas have. And that realization can come in many ways. That realization can come from us introspecting and seeing what Krishna is saying in the, or Prabhupada is saying in the books, or what we're hearing in classes, and being able to relate to it in the world around us, relate to it in the life that we're living, relate to it in the experiences that we have had previously or are going through today. And then coming to this, eventually coming to this realization itself that actually these are temporary, these aren't the greatest things. There is Krishna's hand behind everything. And the other thing is also introspecting ourselves. I'm an analytical person, so my brain naturally goes to analytics, of introspecting and looking inside ourselves, of seeing, where am I lacking? Where am I not choosing Krishna when I could be choosing Krishna? Because that's what it is. We only have one choice in life. Everybody says we have so many choices, we can choose so many things, but really and truly, if you boil it down, there's only one choice. You pick Krishna or you pick Maya. You come closer to Krishna or you choose not to go closer to Krishna. That's the only choice we really have. And it looks different in everybody's life. For somebody, entering brahmachari ashram means choosing Krishna. For some people, entering brahmachari ashram means not choosing Krishna, because now they're all of a sudden thinking about, oh my gosh, but what's going to happen to my future? Who's going to look after me? But my senses, blah, blah, all these different things. Working in a specific firm that is intense, that is hard, might feel like, oh my gosh, that's taking me away from Krishna. But for somebody else, that intense environment might serve their Krishna consciousness, because then the energy is being utilized in their dharma, in their occupational duties, such that they can offer it to Krishna. For everyone, it looks different. But are we choosing Krishna in the decision we're making right now? And then if I try and make it a bit non-analytical and try and bring it to a point of living in the heart, are we studying, are we learning about Krishna to know about Krishna? Or are we coming to a stage of recognizing that Krishna consciousness is a path of loving Krishna? And so are we developing, is what we're doing developing love for Krishna? And I think that also leads into the second question that you asked about mechanical to natural. The process itself takes us to loving Krishna. I spoke about Sambandha Abhidaya Prayojana, right? Abhidaya means the practice. The practice, if we are sincere and serious in our practice, that will naturally bring us to a point of naturally loving Krishna. We are so conditioned that if we say we love Krishna, there's still so much of that is covered by our love for ourselves, our material situation, and so on and so forth. And so go through the process. Be consistent in your process, even if it feels mechanical, because I have no experience of this, but a mother, you see a mother, do they wake up going, I cannot be bothered to look after my child? Even if they feel that way, mechanically they do it because that is their showcase of love for their child. They don't neglect their child going, oh, it's mechanical. I don't feel like loving you, my child, so I'm going to neglect you today. Mechanically, they do it because that is a showcase of love. Duty is a showcase of love. And so dutifully, whether we like it or not, whether we want to or not, be dutiful, be consistent. And through that consistency, through that duty, natural love will arise in the heart.
And that will help us to utilize our senses into the Lord only. The further process, right?
Yeah. And we can follow the examples of the devotees. They engage their senses, their mind in the service of the Lord. It's the Krishna conscious process is not a process of abstinence. It's not a process of neglect. It's not a process of theory. It's a practical process, and it's a process that is built on us developing our love for Krishna through an active engagement. It's a process of purifying our senses, not diverting our senses and ignoring their desires. It's about purifying the desires of the senses and the mind. We eat, we all eat. Some of us eat to satisfy our stomach, some of us eat to satisfy our tongue. Very few of us eat just to live and keep the body and soul together. We can eat prasadam, offer it to the Lord, and then our sense of eating, our sense of taste gets purified. Like this, we have so many things. The verses that I was talking about for Ambrish Maharaj, let me find them. 9.2, I think. Nope. Canto 9, chapter 4, verses 18 to 20 showcase how Ambrish Maharaj used every one of his senses in the service of the Lord. And bit by bit, we can expand ourselves to utilize those senses in the same way.
Definitely.
Okay. Any other questions, comments? Reflections, realizations? It's a community of a Sangha. It's not a Vyasasan session in the temple room. So we can discuss, we can share.
We have very shy people.
I can see. Nobody wishes to turn the camera on. Nobody wants to have a personal relationship with me. I see how it is.
Yeah. Anybody has any question? Yes.
All good.
Yes. Deepak Prabhu, if you have any question?
No.
Okay, no worries. So thank you so much, Prabhuji, for kindly joining us today and sharing your valuable realization with us. And I'm sure everyone truly enjoyed and benefited from this wonderful session. So we sincerely hope to have your association again in the future and hear such inspiring classes from you. Thank you once again for your valuable time, guidance, and kind consideration for this class.
My hand's up because I have something to say.
Yes,
I have a
please go.
condition. More cameras go on.
Yeah, so next time when you will come, I hope to see more people starting with their camera. Thank you everyone. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Ananta koti Vaishnava vrinda ki jai, Gaura Bhakta vrinda ki jai.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, everyone.